We'll start on Wednesday with Tales from the Couch. Not a great night. And once we kind of get through the football thing, I feel like I need to pick a better night. Like Monday was better. Tonight's going to be better. Friday, I'm not doing a Saturday morning pod, but you get the point. Really, the only night worse than Tuesday would be Thursday, but maybe dig in a little bit deeper. I do want to talk about Milwaukee and New Orleans from earlier the week, just because that was one of my favorite NBA regular season games. So I actually am going to touch on that one a little bit. So let's start with what we have. Let's talk Knicks, 8 in a row. They're the 6th seed today, 4.5 games behind number 1 seed Milwaukee. The East still feels like 13 teams for 10 spots. That's including Orlando in the play-in race. They're 2.5 games behind number 10. If Orlando had steadier point guard play, I think they're a play-in team. And I do think they're going to get better. I mean, granted, all this stuff is based on injuries and who wants to play and who doesn't. We know Orlando's guys are younger, so they're likely going to play. But I just feel like if their guard play was steadier, because there's certain nights, and I'm not just saying that from the Boston perspective of it, where I like the team. And we liked them before the season started when we were talking over-under. So there you go, a little magic talk for you. The Knicks win against the Pacers at Indy was a nice one. By the way, the Pacers slipping a bit, 9 seed now. I think they were up 39 on Golden State. I don't know if it actually got to 40 points last night. Now, let's go back. They lost the Knicks, lost to Dallas on December 3rd. They were 10-13. There was talk about Tom Thibodeau being out, grumblings in the NBA, gossip world, where some of the stuff never comes out, what you'll hear gossip-wise. Like I remember hearing something about David Griffin last year, very early with the Pelicans, and you're like, oh, I wonder if that will happen. Nope. Now they have the deepest team in the NBA and we're battling for a 1 seed in the West. So, Steve Nash is going to run the Suns. Doc Rivers is going to go back and run the Orlando Magic. I mean, the amount of stuff that you hear that actually never ends up happening. I don't know how close it would be for the Knicks to move on from Tibbs, but he's the kind of coach when things aren't going right, you could see players being like, I'm a bit over this. However, they've won 8 in a row. The rotations have changed since that Dallas game. And if you look at some of the number stuff, like Fournier hasn't played since November 13th. Rose and Reddish are out. Reddish hasn't played since the Dallas game. Rose has played 4 minutes since the Dallas game. The Knicks on the season are 11th on offense and 7th on defense. In the last 8, they're the number 3 offense in the NBA and the number 1 defense in the NBA and the number 1 rebounding team. Miles McBride, who I loved before the draft, but still kind of had reservations about what he really would be as an NBA player because of the shot making and his just absolute toughness. He right now has the best on and off numbers for any Knicks player, according to Cleaning the Glass. So that checks out. Randall is more like Randall from 2 years ago, not miserable ISO Randall from last season. There's still going to be some possessions where you don't always love it, but he's just, 2 years ago was remarkable for him. There was even talk, remember, he could have waited it out, see if he could hit the contract at an even bigger number. He took the money, and then last year, we're like, man, it's a good thing he took that money. But it just feels like he's back to the guy that we saw a couple years ago and not last year where you're like, what's going on with this guy? He's 25-10 in December. The field goal percentage isn't great. Brunson, more touches equals more shots, more points, more assists. He's been worth it for the Knicks. He's been terrific. He's 50% from 3 in December. Grimes has been great for them as well. He's making a ton of threes here in December as well. I am a little worried about RJ Barrett only because I started to really get excited about him last season where I felt like it wasn't a numbers thing. It was just an eye test deal with RJ where it was like, I think he's figuring some things out. I think he's taken another step. I thought he took another step, like his mentality. And I guess maybe I was hoping to see another step stacked on top of that. I know some of the numbers still would tell you, look, I'm not telling you he sucks. I guess I just wanted to see it increase and head in a different direction. And with Brunson, that's where you start to, if you're a front office, you're going, okay, if we bring in somebody else who's going to be running the offense, how does that impact the development of the other guy that we spent a really high pick on? And ththese are those constant battles that you have where you're like, how do we really want to balance this all out? But for the Knicks and the rest of the roster, you're kind of thinking like, look, let's just get better. Let's just get better here. But when you start thinking about RJ long term, look, it's only 31 games, I think, this season. I'm not going to freak out about it, but there's some overall numbers here. Look, he's 42% from the floor, 30%, just under 30 on 5.5 3-point attempts per game. He's gone from 40% to 24% to 30% his last 3 years from three. He's a career 41.8% shooter, just overall from the floor. I'm holding off on actually being worried about it, but there's some trending stuff there where you're like, okay, maybe he's just going to be like a decent role player. And I think there were moments last year I was like, oh, I think this guy's starting to figure it out. Golden State on the other side, they are now a half a game behind the 10 spot for the last play-in slot in the West. The West is 12 teams for 10. I know Oklahoma City's only 2 games behind number 10 Dallas. OKC was 7-8 at one point. They're 13-18 now. I just have a hard time believing they're actually going to play, even though they've won more games than we would expect, because SGA has been so good and there's so many guys on that Thunder team that I really like. I don't know that I'm going to include them the way they include Orlando for the play-in race in the East. Golden State's not going to have Curry now for a month, right, with his shoulder injury. Which when you saw the play when he goes to reach and then immediately grabs his shoulder and you're like, wait, what just happened? You're like, oh, that's probably going to be bad. They're 2-6 in their last 8. So they were losing games before Curry was out. And I wonder if, as bad as it looked last night, as bad as it's going to look at times, if there's some silver lining in this again for Golden State, which is always the annoying part of the Golden State thing, because it feels like, wait, something bad happened and then it all kind of worked out. At least that's what we thought with some of the trades, the Wiseman pick, getting Kuminga when they had a bad record and they come back and win an NBA title. I'm just wondering if more minutes for Kuminga and minutes what we saw from Wiseman last night, if there's a chance that there'll be this month-long lull period where they finally figure out what they have with these lottery picks and if those lottery picks respond. That's a big ask because collectively it's been pretty disappointing, right? Kuminga, I still probably have more hope for than Wiseman, and I'm going to get to this here. But the numbers are worse across the board from where they're at this year to what they were last year. His real plus minus, which is hard to have a negative with Golden State, he was a negative last year at -1.5. Now it's like over 3. That's pretty bad. So when I watch Kuminga, I wonder, if he were at Houston and Jalen Green weren't there, Jalen Green's better than Kuminga. Okay. So let's get that out of the way. But if you said to Kuminga, okay, you're going to initiate the offense, and granted, like he's not as quick, twitchy as Green is. He's a sick athlete, but he's not Jalen Green. But if you allowed him to do that in that role, like would Kuminga be putting up numbers despite not being any better of a player? And then people would talk about him as like, wow, you keep your eye on a Kuminga type. I think body type wise, you compare him to Anthony Edwards. Again, he's not even close to Anthony Edwards. But, the weird thing about this Golden State system is that it's holding you accountable. You're thinking about like, I'm learning the right way. But I think the negative side of it is like the leash is so much shorter. And this is part of the Wiseman problem as well. Because Wiseman, I have no doubt, like if he were on Charlotte, if he were on, I don't know, even Oklahoma City, any of the teams that are just like, okay, we're sifting through what we have here. We're going to lose games. It's not a big deal. Go out there and make a ton of mistakes. I think Wiseman would be like 15-9 a game. Easy. I really do. But with Golden State and the defensive rotations and the constant problems, and like Kerr was just like, I can't keep playing this guy. They sent him down to the G League. It sucks he missed an entire season. It sucks that he played 3 games in college. When you watched him in college, it was this battle between an absolute like rare dynamic body that can move and do the things that he was doing, like a really special prospect physically, versus a guy that you could tell as soon as he had to think about what it was that he was doing, then it was screwed up. You could just see it. You could see the difference between him being like, okay, I've caught it. Now I could do this or whatever. And then it was like, all right, it's too late. When he's just playing, he's better. When he's thinking, it becomes a problem. And he also, Wiseman, has incredibly bad luck. He just has all these bad luck plays. Like he goes up, he's about to get the dunk, loses the basketball, gets stripped. He went up and goaltended last night when it didn't make any sense. He had another play where there was a jump ball where he was the deep man and he got beat, which, look, he's going to get beat by a guard the entire time. But that led to a breakout because Jericho Sims was going to win the tip. Like it was against another guard for Golden State. Was it Rollins maybe? So the point is, like, the Wiseman thing is really frustrating. I feel bad for him. And when I talked about him before the draft, I'm like, he could at the ceiling be this, but man, at the floor, like you could be wondering in 3 years if this guy's going to get a short contract to be the third center as some rim runner. Like all of it was in play. And this might be the kind of make or break moment for this Warriors duo. I'm not even really including Moody in here, even though I think he's been kind of whatever as well. Where I don't know if that means that there's a trade where Golden State may say, hey, we really don't think we have what we thought we had. So we're better off on moving this bond now before we wait this out another year. And everybody knows what the true price of these guys, what their real value is. All right. Denver beats Memphis last night at home. Denver was sitting Murray because of rest. No Michael Porter Jr. because of a heel. He's missed 12 games. There was a report that he's going to be back soon. Then last night they said that maybe it's going to be Christmas. Who knows with him? Bane's still been out, the big toe sprain. 2 weeks ago, it was supposed to be back in 3 to 4 weeks. So we don't know. The top four in the West before the games last night because Phoenix lost. Wizards losing streak over. Phoenix down 17, comes back, goes up. Then they blow that lead. Beal was terrific in the fourth quarter. We were critical of Beal at some times, but look, he got it going and dominated. And Paul, after a really nice Lakers game against a bad Lakers team, sitting a bunch of guys, he kind of like, I know. I'm aware is what I'm saying. I'm aware. We'll be discussing it maybe in another couple of weeks. But the West going into last night, the top four, 1.5 games between Denver, Memphis, New Orleans, Phoenix. Today, you wake up, Denver and Memphis both 19-11. So without the Golden State part of this, with Phoenix having a rough go of it recently, which is what's going to happen to every team. I don't care how good you are. It feels like as deep as the West is, the top has been brought back down to the middle. At least that's how it feels 30 games in. So we may have to start preparing ourselves for, like, Memphis seems a no-brainer to be a 1 seed. All right, I can accept that. New Orleans, because it hasn't happened before, and there's still been no Ingram. Maybe with no Ingram, it's like, man, they definitely. So I'm okay with that one. Denver, the defense, you've heard me talk about it. I'm always going to be a little concerned about that. So maybe Denver would feel a little bit more surprising, but I don't think it's completely unrealistic because Jokic is who he is, and he's insane. So Memphis defensively was bad last night. I'm not really that worried about the Memphis loss. The primary defender on Jokic was Adams. Jaren Jackson, foul trouble again. Let me know if you've heard that one before. He played 15 total minutes with 8:40 left. So at the 8:40 mark, he'd only played 15 minutes of the game. And again, it was going to be Adams on Jokic. And Adams, he had an easy Jokic night because he didn't want to shoot last night. Did have another triple-double, 13, 13, and 13. So Denver was dominant for most of the game. There were some stretches where they had to go to zone. It was kind of funny. Memphis did one thing where they screened the interior, the inside. I shouldn't get too technical here because it makes me sound like an asshole. But they were screening the inside of the top two defenders in this zone where you don't really see that much. And Van Gundy made a good call. He's like, they might have to get out of this at some point. But that didn't really matter because Denver was doing what they wanted to Memphis, which was kind of weird. But yeah, they had Tyus Jones with the basketball at the top, and they went in and screened the inside of the two top defenders, and Jones just went right through the middle of them, pulled up for free throw line and missed a jumper. But it was kind of funny just to see, like, people can stop screening against zones. I have this rant about switching into a worse option that I think I'm planning on. I constantly am seeing it all the time. The Brooklyn-Toronto game from a few days ago was like a prime example where I'd be like, wait, why are you switching off of this guy into this defender? Like, why would you want to do that? Anyway, that's not what that was necessarily. I guess I'm just not that worried about Memphis having a bad night. I do want to talk a little positive here, though. Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon's been a player over the years where I feel like everybody that doesn't have him liked him more than the Magic who had him. Or fans, probably is the best way to put that. You're like, oh, man, we got this guy. Because he's kind of a nice player. But there's also like some real limitations never quite worked out. I don't know that this is the best Aaron Gordon we've ever seen, okay, in 9 seasons. It's not close. I don't like that term, but in this case, it's true. He's always been a mid-40s guy from the floor. He's been over 50 every season he's been with Denver, Jokic. This season, he's 61% from the floor. He's 39% from three. It's the most free throw attempts he's ever taken. So Gordon in this role with Jokic, it's just like, certain programs that have a player in college football where you're like, no, they're going to do a good job because it's them. It's the same player, but he'll be better with them. That's what Jokic provides you. As your point man is maybe another MVP award for this dude. He's so much fun to watch. And watching him last night just go like, yeah, I'm going to be actually a little apprehensive. Well, not apprehensive would be negative. He was like, I'm going to kind of play in the flow of the game tonight. Like, I'm not going to look to get mine. He could take so many more shots and they'd be good shots. And then he won't do it unless he feels like, okay, I absolutely need to take a shot here in a big spot. And then he makes it anyway. But Gordon has been a huge, huge benefactor in his season this year, right now, the best of his career. Okay, like I said, I wanted to end on Milwaukee's win at New Orleans. Milwaukee, the 1 seed in the East, so it's kind of crazy how things play out. Boston gets off to this incredible start, and then you're like, oh, wait, there's the 2 seed. Point differential is kind of funny. Cleveland's actually the number 1 point differential in the East. Boston's second. Milwaukee is third. So, like I said, this is one of my favorite games this season because it was the Giannis-Zion chess match and how this was all going to play out. Unfortunately, this happens way too much with some of the guys with these massive defensive resumes. Oh, cool. Giannis is going to play on Zion? No, not going to happen. But Drew Holiday is. On the other side for New Orleans, Herb Jones was the main guy against Giannis, I believe. I mean, I don't know the total number of possessions, but was the first matchup, and that's usually what you're looking at. They were trying to build that wall. They were trying, and they just weren't ready for it. I thought New Orleans, like it's one of those things where it's like, I'm going to keep telling you, you have to do this. You have to stay together. You can't give him any space. You know, look, it's still Giannis. He's going to get his points, but you can't make it easy for him. And if you're out of position or you're late to the help, you're going to foul him. And that's exactly what happened. Giannis took 22 free throws in that game, and he made 17. So that was kind of the game, at least offensively, for Milwaukee. And no Middleton, by the way, in this one. We know Ingram's still out for New Orleans. Now, on the other side, Zion was initiating a lot of the offense on his own, or at least bringing it up. You know, getting the ball out in the perimeter, facing the basket. Okay, go Zion, go create, because you can dribble past everybody. And he's, I believe, the 4th most efficient offensive player in the NBA this season. I think Jokic is 1. Markkanen, I think, is 2. I can look that up again. I'll likely forget and not do it in this podcast. So that was the problem for New Orleans. They just, you know, they thought they knew what they wanted to do, and they did a bad job with it. So Drew defends Zion, but it wasn't just that. It was either Brook Lopez or sometimes even a third guy facing Zion. I posted a pic because Valanciunas, I believe, had 26 in the first half because Brook was just always going to help towards Zion. Giannis did it a few times as well. So Valanciunas is going crazy, lighting it up. And Antonio Daniels, who does the games for the Pelicans, who was terrific, he was just teaching the entire game. And he's like, look, I played for Coach Bud in San Antonio, and he's not going to change. And Bucks fans could back that up. Like, look, he's not going to change what he does. This is what he's going to. The rule is they want that help to Zion. When he has the ball, leave the other guy open. And Valanciunas isn't missing. And at one point, Daniels points out that Brook looks back to the Bucks bench and is like, what do you guys want me to do? You want me to keep doing this? And Bud's like, yeah. And AD's like, they're going to keep doing it. They're going to keep doing it the whole time. So I posted this pic at one point where Zion was on the left side. If you're going left to right on your TV watching basketball, he's to the left side, you know, not below the elbow, but, you know, towards the Milwaukee bench. And Drew is on him. Lopez, I believe, is covering up Drew, so you can't even see Drew. And then Giannis is helping, and Valanciunas is wide open. There's 3 guys on Zion. And I posted it. And you can't see Drew if you have to really, really look for him. Like, is that an extra leg in there? And so I actually thought this was a positive for Zion because then they started posting him. And it was too late. But Zion was like, all right, I'm not screwing around. As soon as I get the ball, I'm not letting you dictate how you're going to play me and then play off of that. I'm going to make you adjust to me now. And they probably should have got the ball out of his hands a little bit earlier. It's a credit to Drew Holiday to take on that kind of assignment to try to just slow Zion down on the drives, and he can. But there was always help. It was a fantastically prepped game for an NBA team where there's probably too many times they just roll the ball out. I thought the prep specific to the Zion matchup, one of the most impressive things I've seen from an NBA team this season. Give credit to Zion for kind of figuring it out. Maybe a little late. Maybe everybody was a little late for that one. But I saw some people being like, oh, this is this new thing. Oh, no, I think Zion was like, his passing is so good that you kind of take it for granted that he can be doubled and you can sell out against him like this and he'll still make the right play. But I thought what he did later was like, oh, okay. You know, he'll know what to do if this is a finals rematch, which I don't think is crazy to say.